Doom 2016 is the best first-person shooter I have ever played. It's almost perfect. Every aspect of it bounces off and integrates so well with every other part of the game that it's almost astonishing to find out just how much turmoil went on behind the scenes in this game's development hell. But it may be precisely because so much happened during the making of the game that when id Software decided to start from scratch, they knew which direction they were going in simply because they had gone down the wrong direction for so long. Doom Eternal is being released in a couple months as of the making of this video, and so I decided to go back and replay Doom to get ready for it. This is my third time playing through Doom, and this time I decided to play it on Ultra Violence difficulty, which is hard difficulty because my previous two playthroughs had been on normal difficulty. I can't tell you how long it's been since I've actually played a game on a difficulty other than normal. I usually play games on normal on my first playthrough because it's the normal difficulty, the one that the developer usually intends the players to play it on for their first playthrough. But I decided to go for a higher difficulty this time around since I like the game so much. I played Doom on the Xbox One S. This video will contain spoilers for the entirety of the game, although to be honest there isn't that much to spoil story-wise anyways, but you've been warned. Doom is a game that could have looked very different if things had panned out the way they were originally intended to. Doom 4 was initially set on Earth during a demonic invasion and was much more story-focused and character-driven with set-piece moments and cinematic storytelling, much closer to a Call of Duty type experience than the Doom we actually got. And though by all accounts from the developers it was a genuinely good game, it just didn't feel like Doom was supposed to feel to id Software. And so after 5 years of development hell, that version of Doom 4 was scrapped, and the team restarted the game from almost nothing. There were a few things they kept from Doom 4, such as the glory kills, but they were changed in the final product. There's a lot more interesting information about the development of the game, but I'll save those for the respective parts in the video. If you want to know more, check out NoClip's documentary on the game on YouTube. It's where I got most of the information about the development of the game. I'm also not going to talk about most of what's in the documentary, as I would rather you watch the people who actually did the hard work than me just regurgitating their information. Doom's overall presentation is fantastic. The actual graphical fidelity is not as great as you'd expect, as up-close textures don't necessarily look that great, but this is forgivable as the game aims for 60 frames per second and almost always achieves it, barring some occasional frame rate hiccups, and the player's movement speed is so fast that you don't usually stop long enough to see some of the graphical shortcomings. If you do slow down though, you'll notice some of the load-in that happens on occasion. The game has two locations you'll be exploring, Mars and the UAC facility on it, and Hell. The UAC facility is all metal and industrial areas, although since it's on Mars, there's lots of red sand as well, at least in the earlier portions of the game. But once you head deep into the facility, you get more pristine locations, minus the gore and dead bodies everywhere, such as labs and offices. Hell looks pretty fucking sweet in this game, I gotta say. There's lots of stone architecture that looks ancient and foreboding, with floating rocks and raw hell energy keeping things together. It's not really the sort of fiery hell that you'd see from some religious depictions, it's more desolate and empty, almost cold feeling. I really like the design of the demons. They look gross and creepy, but there's also I don't want to say goofiness to them, but there's definitely a stylized comic booky, almost cartoonish look to them and the whole game overall. Like you can't look at the Pinky or Kako demon and think that the artists were going for pure horror. I mean, look at it. Who's a good Pinky? Oh shit! The animations are also really well done. Seeing imps scamper up, around, and across all manners of ledges, crates, and gaps like some sort of weird little demonic monkey can actually be kind of mesmerizing. And the glory kills though. Watching Doomslayer rip off a Pinky's tail and beat it to death with it was a sight to behold. Bad Pinky. Bad Pinky! And even though you will see some of the same glory kills quite a few times over the course of the game, it never got old for me, kind of like VATS in Fallout 3 and New Vegas. There's actually a lot of tongue-in-cheek type of humor in the game, from the way the Doomslayer reacts to Hayden's directions to the hilarious dialogue for the AI in the UAC facility. There's some of that going on with the score for the game as well, seeing as Mick Gordon put some imagery into the music, like the number 666 in the audio files, a pentagram, and even a reversed Jesus Loves You. Speaking of the score, it's amazing. Doom's soundtrack is one of my favorite video game scores of all time. Adding to that is the fact that I'm a huge metalhead, so this is right up my alley. I listen to Doom's soundtrack quite often, actually, outside of the game, like when I'm walking the dog or driving somewhere. I went to college for music production, so finding out how the score was made is quite fascinating for a guy like myself. Mick had the idea to break sound down to its core components of sound and noise. He then sent those audio signals and pulses through various analog gear such as analog synthesizers, not to use them as effects, but rather to use their circuitry to corrupt the sounds. That's where you get some of the gnarliest sounds you hear on the score. id Software initially didn't want metal to be a part of the score for Doom, as they thought it was too predictable and kind of cheesy. But once Mick started to figure out the sound that he was going for, he started to incorporate heavy guitars into some of the tracks. And when he played the tracks for id, they liked them, so he started adding more guitar, and then more guitar, until it basically ended up being a pretty guitar-heavy metal-sounding score, with a fair bit of, I guess, dark electronic mixed in as well. There's a lot to dig into with the making of the score, and if you want to know more, check out the links in the description, as just like I mentioned, I'd rather you go watch the source than me, the parrot. Doom's story is certainly not the main focus of the game, but that doesn't mean the team were slacking when it came to writing it though. Hugo Martin, the game's creative director, had the idea to basically make the game self-aware. Everyone's in on the joke. The joke being that this monolithic corporation is also a demonic cult, and they approach being a cult the way a gigantic corporation would approach being a cult. It's kind of genius. The game starts off with a fucking awesome voiceover that perfectly sets up the Doomslayer. He is to be feared by the demons. He is their worst nightmare. And you, the player, will get to play as this fucking badass. The Doomslayer wakes up, kills a demon with his bare hand, gets his Praetor suit, and away we go. The actual plot is that humanity discovered that hell exists and managed to figure out a way to convert hell energy into Argent energy, which is the most powerful and efficient source of energy ever discovered. The downside is, of course, you know, all the demons and shit. Olivia Pierce, who is the right-hand woman of the facility's leader Samuel Hayden, became obsessed with hell and demons and formed a cult within the company. She eventually allows a demonic invasion to occur and opens a portal to hell. All this really means for the player is, we gotta kill some demons. The Doomslayer himself is an interesting character. He's kind of a silent protagonist as he doesn't speak or talk to anyone in the game, but he manages to have more character than a lot of characters who are voiced or have dialogue in some other games. When Hayden tries to monologue to him, he shoves the screen out of his face. I don't got time for this. There's demons to kill. Then, when he's in the elevator, as Hayden is telling him that everything they did was worth the risk, Doomguy looks down at a butchered corpse, cracks his fist, and destroys the speaker in the elevator. Doomguy's characterization is so strong because it perfectly understands the show don't tell rule of storytelling. You could have Doomguy give a speech about how fucked up this whole situation is and how much he hates demons and thinks Hayden is a moron for trying to exploit hell for its resources. Or you could show him completely rejecting everything Hayden tries to tell him throughout the entire game without a single word of dialogue. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy my dialogue-heavy, story-driven games like RPGs and such, but if you can show instead of tell, you probably should. The game has a codec, and each entry in the codec has more than one level of information you can access. The first level is the more bog-standard corporate kind of description of whatever demon or person is written about in the entry. But the second level is where they drop the pretense of normalcy and expose the truth of what the corporate cult really knows and or thinks about the subject. I will only describe Doom's gameplay as euphoric. Jumping around, shooting demons, punching demons, chainsawing demons, it's my happy place. I gotta tell you man, every time I've picked up Doom again after not playing it for a while, it always takes me a couple levels to get used to the movement speed in the game. There's no sprint in the game, but the default movement speed is faster than the sprinting speed of most other shooters. I start playing the game and I feel like I'm on skates, like whoa, shit! But you get used to it relatively quickly and in no time you're slaying demons. And once you unlock the double jump, there's no stopping you. It's not even fair. But what will you be killing these demons with, I hear you ask? Well, let me tell you. You got your combat shotgun, the super shotgun, the pistol, a couple grenade types, the heavy assault rifle, the chain gun, the plasma rifle, the Gauss cannon, the chainsaw, and of course, the big fucking gun 9000. Most guns actually share ammo types with each other, and to be honest, this might be one of the few things that I don't like about the game, as once I got all the guns, I found myself basically never using the heavy assault rifle or plasma rifle, as they share ammo with the chain gun and Gauss cannon respectively, and I preferred the latter guns over the former ones. The BFG and chainsaw have their own dedicated button on the controller instead of being part of the weapon wheel like all the other weapons, and have a unique ammo type not shared with any other weapon in the game. This is because both of those weapons are supposed to be used for specific purposes. The chainsaw has a certain number of charges, up to 7, and each demon requires a certain number of charges to kill, anywhere from 1 to 5. And the chainsaw will insta-kill any demon provided you have enough charges. Any enemy killed with the chainsaw will drop only ammo, but a shit ton of it. So the chainsaw is supposed to be used either when you're in a bind and need to kill a demon right away, or if you're running really low on ammo. The BFG lives up to its name and basically works the same way as the chainsaw in the sense that it will insta-kill any enemy it makes contact with, but each single charge will kill any demon. You don't need more than one charge to kill an enemy, but it doesn't give you a bunch of drops like the chainsaw, and the charges for the BFG are rarer than the fuel for the chainsaw. Speaking of drops, if you're needing a health drop, then the best way to get it is to perform a glory kill. If a demon's health has been whittled down enough, they'll get stunned for a couple seconds and will flash orange and blue, signaling to the player that they are vulnerable to a glory kill. Glory kills are small animations that reward the player with health drops. The animations are short, sweet, brutal, and to the point, and the player is invulnerable while performing them. I basically view them as momentary respites from the action where you can get a breath in and make a snap decision on what your next move is going to be. The developers at id describe the game's combat with two terms that I think are very apt: push forward combat and combat chess. Both terms are referring to the game's combat being designed in such a way that the player is always on the offensive and moving around the battlefield. The AI is actually programmed to miss the player more and be less accurate with their shots as long as the player is moving. And since the weapons in the game are projectile based, you can actually dodge the bullets. There are health and ammo pickups on the ground in arenas where you fight, but as I just explained, you can get health and ammo from killing demons, so when you're low on health or ammo, often the best thing to do is to just continue killing demons, aka pushing forward to get the health and ammo that you need. Each level has combat challenges that you can complete to earn weapon upgrade points for the weapon mods, such as perform a set number of a certain type of glory kill on an enemy. Most guns have weapon mods that give the gun one of two alternate fires. The combat shotgun, for example, can either have a grenade launcher mod or a rapid fire mod, and each mod can be upgraded. Likewise, the Doomslayer's Praetor suit also has its own upgrades with things like more grenade charges and immunity to explosive damage, and even Doomguy himself can be upgraded to increase the max ammo capacity of his guns, his health, and his armor. But wait, there's more. There are also runes that you can unlock once you've discovered them and completed their challenges to get specific bonuses, like being able to control your movement in the air better or being able to pick up ammo from farther away. Some of those rune challenges are actually kind of hard as well. The level design in the game has a lot more in common with multiplayer maps than it does with more modern first-person shooters, as each combat arena needs to take into account the Doomslayer's mobility and the enemy's mobility as well. A cover shooter this is not. It also put a ton of secrets in the game for you to find as you explore each level. There are small toy Doom guys to find that unlock character models for viewing, upgrade points for your suit and guns, and even hidden levels from the original Doom game. This is pretty sweet. The game is also paced really well for the majority of its campaign, with a steady drip feed of new weapons to use, upgrades to try out, and enemies to fight. Unfortunately, however, another one of my problems with the game is that even though I love the combat, because this is for real my favorite first-person shooter, it can get repetitive near the end of the game. Some of the arenas in the final levels have so many enemies to fight for each encounter that it almost felt like a chore, because by that point I had already found all the weapons and had been fighting all of the same demons for most of the game. And it doesn't help that if you die during one of these extra long encounters, you have to restart the entire fight from the beginning. It was genuinely getting on my nerves in the last couple arenas in the game. Doom does have a few boss battles in the campaign, and these are fantastic and incredibly fun and memorable, but there's only 3 in the whole game. And these happen in the last third of the game. A few more boss fights sprinkled throughout the rest of the campaign definitely could have spiced things up a bit more. And even though exploration is actually a lot of fun, and the map is actually really good, I still feel that there could have been a little bit more in the way of gameplay variety. There was also a weird occurrence that happened sometimes when I got a chainsaw kill, where the guns that I had equipped before performing the chainsaw kill were no longer equipped, and defaulted back to the combat shotgun and heavy assault rifle even though neither of them were the guns I had equipped. It doesn't seem to be a glitch, as I watched some footage from other YouTube videos and it behaves the same way. I just don't know why it would be programmed this way. The multiplayer in Doom is definitely not the focus of the game, and while some people might feel like it takes away from the overall quality of the game, I disagree. I don't necessarily think it adds much value, but I didn't buy Doom for the multiplayer, and I don't think really anyone did either. It's just a bonus to a fantastic single-player campaign. And don't get me wrong, the multiplayer is not bad. It's actually rather fun, and I enjoyed my time with it. It's just not up to the level of the single-player portion of Doom. The game also has a snap map feature. which does not interest me in the slightest, so I never used it besides getting footage of it. But it is cool that it's there. Doom is a bit of a paradox, as its gameplay feels incredibly fresh and unique in a genre dominated by realistic military shooters and multiplayer-focused shooters. But its game design is actually very retro, taking inspiration from literally one of the first and oldest first-person shooter games. It's just so distinct in its vision of push-forward combat and chess combat that I actually think Doom has more in common with Superhot, which is essentially a first-person shooter puzzle game, than it does with Call of Duty. I'm sure that there are actually people out there that don't like Doom precisely because it isn't just another military shooter or battle royale game. It's got way more personality than that. But if you found yourself in the same situation that I was in when Doom was released, i.e. being a little burnt out on all the modern day gritty realistic shooters and multiplayer only shooters, then Doom was just the breath of fresh air that I was hoping it would be. 4 years later and Doom is still the bee's knees. The bee's very bloody, dismembered knees. I'm going to give Doom a 9.5 out of 10, which is the highest score I've given a game so far on my channel. I am so goddamn excited for Doom Eternal, and from everything I've seen so far, it looks like it'll live up to the hype. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below and tell me what you think of Doom 2016, and if you're excited for Doom Eternal. Thanks for watching.